Hey guys, this is KSP with Tape, and today you join me for episode 31 of KSP Road to Exploration, and today we start by departing from the station with the Red Origin 3, with Mitgun at the helm by himself. He's heading out to Minmus to complete a few missions, to take some seismic surveys, to put a flag on Minmus, and I think to return scientific data from Minmus. So here we are, just after I set up the burn, about to head on out there, which will be rather glorious, because, well, today is pretty much, I think I raise about 1 million funds to go and, to upgrade my science center, because as I've, my research and development center, because as I've said many a time, we really need that. I've been really kind of, well, I spent a lot of time building the station, not really gaining that much money. Building the whole network, all the different stations. But now we've kind of hit an end with our kind of technology, so we need more. So we will need the new center. And so that's really what I'm going for right now. And then after that, we'll be back to just building pointless stuff that doesn't earn me any money. Because, well, the down payment on making this, hugely reusable network around Kerbal and its moons was quite expensive, but it has saved me a lot of money and generated a lot of money in the long run, with tourism and various things. So yeah, I've got this weird, annoying texture glitching that keeps happening. On the left, you can see that it looks like there's kind of the atmosphere texture from Kerbal overlaid onto not Kerbal. I think that's a scatterer thing, and I just usually quick load and quick save to deal with that. So yeah. Anyway, we're going to head on up there and go do some good reports. It's kind of near the poles, but I don't think it's the actual poles biome, so we won't get a ton of science, but I'm not too worried about that right now. Yeah, we have a station generating science, and we get science every now and again. But, it's... It's mostly about getting money right now, and I guess I could have done a jump to the poles, but I didn't want to risk it, and I didn't bring a scientist to reset my experiments. And repeat experiments are useful, and also there's a lot of places I've been and haven't done all of the experiments, like seismic scans and atmospheric surveys and surface samples, so often it's good to go back. I think I do that a couple of times this episode with the moon as well. So yeah, there we are in a nice polar orbit. Hopefully we will soon pass above that and be able to descend. We're just going to leave that fuel tank behind, because obviously we don't need that to land. That is pretty much our transfer stage. Kind of reminiscent of Apollo, I guess, but but I obviously don't bring a service module. I just bring an extra fuel tank, really. And yeah, so we're just going to hopefully fly across here. I'm just pretty much going to land and then go and find the places I need to actually go and survey, because I don't want to have to pinpoint land without like an actual target, which is always quite difficult. So I open up the surface info thing. MechJub is so useful. I know I can use Flight Engineer, but I also like the Translatron. People tell me to use the landing assistance on MechJub, which I probably should do for like my stages, but they land mostly with parachutes, so yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we're just gonna grab a little bit of science. The materials bay, apparently we haven't done that, because we're in the lowlands. We came here a long time ago, so I'm just grabbing all of the science as much as we can, and it doesn't look like we get a ton, but we get bits. So just lowlands landing. Throw a flag down so I remember that I've landed here. Then we have the annoying ballet of trying to get on this freaking ladder. I really hate the ladders in KSP. The physics doesn't take place on them, or I'm sure there's a good reason for that, but it does make staying on a ladder quite difficult. So after falling over, trying to turn towards my target so I know which way I'm going, I take off. Luckily I didn't break any solar panels, but yeah, it was a bit of a bad move, really. So yeah, just gonna head on up there with my little science package and do a bunch of seismic scans to be paid rather handsomely. We've also, you can see in the top right, we've got the mission completed for putting the flag down, which is quite lucrative actually. It was like 100 grand or something. And there's the first of the reports done, and then we're just gonna jump into the next zone. Yeah, you can see there's about 13 grand for that. Once we've done all of that, we get a pretty big payment. And I'm just going to try and get into these sectors. I can actually get into both sectors at the same time, so you'll see me kind of trying to be, jumping quite precisely back and forth to try and be in both at the same time, so I don't have to do another jump. But yeah, so I just entered it, and here's the exact boundary between the two sectors. But I can get a report from within both of them. So yeah, you can see I did both of them at the same time. 13,000 for each of them, and the mission is completed, so we got paid rather handsomely. And yeah, that's quite a lot of money. And once I've actually taken an empty report, like a atmospheric pressure survey, which gives me no science, but if I transmit that back, I'll complete my mission to return science to Kerbal. So Well, no, transmit science, so that'll do the whole mission. I think that gets me about 300 grand for this one mission, for the price of a tank of fuel, which is relatively cheap to get up here. I mean, the rocket, I think it probably cost me, including the fuel, maybe 10 grand, depending on how much I get back for each piece of the rocket. But it's less than 10 grand to get enough fuel for one of these missions up here, because obviously my rockets are reusable, and usually I get at least 90% back for them. So yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, we've just got to head over to the fuel tank, grab it, and head on back. But I think we've got a few things to do in between here and getting back to Kerbal, because obviously it takes about 2 weeks. That's the reason I only brought one Kerbal, because currently this is only really outfitted with enough life support for one Kerbal for a to do a trip to Minmus. So I usually stop at the station, but I really didn't want to do that, so I just sent the one Kerbal. And Mitgen is our man. He is, I think, the 5th Kerbal we ever got, the first one we rescued after the big 4. But yeah, just going to grab that and head on back. But at some point I will bring up a new life support can, and just a small one, and put it on the side, because the waste cans have twice the capacity as the supply cans, because obviously it's not 100% wasted. So yeah, I will be I'll be bringing up another one, so I don't have to dock at stations when I do these missions. I rarely use Series 1, the station around Minmus. I probably will when I have a base here. I have got a mission to put a base on Minmus, so yeah, it will be useful then. But again, I kind of need fuel mining to really make it useful, so that I don't have to ship fuel out there. So I'm kind of waiting for that. I haven't really utilized a lot of my resources, like my stations, but I will be. And once we get the new science center, we'll be able to, start mining fuel and things. So yeah, while that is heading down to Kerbal, we have something to do around Duna. Yes, this is our, I think it's Kestrel 1 or something like that. Yeah, and we have a mission to enter the atmosphere of Duna. So I'm just going to glance the atmosphere, and we're going to be paid quite well for that. And this still has almost 200 meters per second delta V left in its rocket stage. So we're going to be able to hopefully complete this mission quite easily. Annoyingly, the actual propulsion on the probe, which would have been an extra 800 meters per second delta V, those never worked on the first 2 Kestrel missions, because the engine couldn't burn the monopropellant from radial fuel tanks. But yeah, we don't need it, because you can see with a 24 meters per second burn, we should be able to get ourselves into a good position. And what I'm doing here is kind of glitching the electric charge by time warping, so that I can rotate my solar panels, because they were poorly orientated. And rather than giving up this whole mission, I thought I'd just kind of glitch it a bit so I can reorientate my solar panels and get my communications back. So yeah, I think I do that twice in this mission. Probably shouldn't, but I really wanted to do this, and I'm going to be paid really well for entering the atmosphere of Duna. And look how beautiful it is down there. A little with Scatterer, that beautiful atmosphere. Yeah, so we are on our way. We'll have to do a quick retrograde burn in a second here, as you can see, and we're going to be dipping into the atmosphere on the other side, so we'll probably run out of electric charge and won't be able to take any science, but we will be paid quite well, so that's the main thing, as I've said. And we have another Duna window coming up quite soon, which I will be sending a bunch of stuff to, a bunch of science equipment, some communications equipment, and potentially the first part to our base. But I'm not entirely sure if I'm actually going to do that. I might do that in the next transfer window, but, it's just kind of clogging up my contracts. So yeah, I also get a world first for getting onto a suborbital trajectory, which this technically isn't, but I guess because it enters the atmosphere it is. But anyway, yeah, so I set up the flight computer to try and take some scientific reports. Oh yeah, I was just quickly Googling how long 24 minutes is in seconds, so that I can tell it how many seconds it is. I didn't have a calculator on hand, so... yeah, so I'm just going to set up these, and these will take their reports in like 25 minutes or something when we actually enter the atmosphere. But I run out of electric charge, so we won't be doing that. But luckily we're in a very rarefied part of the atmosphere, so the spacecraft should be fine, hopefully. And yes, 25,000 there, and 176,000 for entering the atmosphere. And you just saw there we have we have almost 3.1 million funds. We need 3.3 for the new science center, so we're getting really close. It's going to be, we're going to have the money for it really soon, and it's going to be so great, because I've been stuck with smaller rockets, and people ask me why I didn't build Falcon Heavy style rockets, which is super valid and a super great way of building rockets. But I can't reuse those rockets, because obviously I have to land them kind of at the same time stuff's flying, so I wouldn't really have the time. And there is a mod that I can get that would help me with that, which I probably should just use, really. It's like the stage recovery mod, which will like stop time for those specific stages, and that would be really cool. That would allow me to actually land them back at the Space Center. So I may actually do that at some point, but I think for now, I'm just going to stick with single booster rockets, really. And once I get the 3.75 meter ones, it should be fine. But maybe I will look into that, because I think that will be quite cool. And it's not like cheating, you know, but I think part of the fun, or part of the thing that amazes me about this whole thing is that I've managed to, you know, do all of this with, without using any mods to reuse the rockets. But yeah, anyway, so we're just going to lift our periapsis out of the atmosphere, and then also do a quick... At some point, we're going to do a quick change to our orbit so that our apoapsis isn't near Ike, because there's a serious possibility that Ike could pull us in and potentially kick us out of the atmosphere. Kick us out of the sphere of influence of Duna, which would be kind of sucky, really, because I want to keep this around here as a communications satellite. And just because it can keep doing these little missions. It still has 80 meters per second of delta V, and it's hugely useful. But yes, anyway, I think that is that. And here we are. What are we doing now? I think we're about to launch something. Yes, we are. We're on the pad with a probe of some kind. I believe this is, yes, the Eris 2.3, the hopefully actually working version of my fueling spacecraft. Because pretty much all of the others have run out of fuel. Run out of monopropellant, so they've never reached the station, which really sucks. But I've put a couple of radial liquid fuel burning engines on here, so we can use our payload fuel to get to the station. Because we don't actually need all of that for a Minmus/Moon mission. We can give it a little bit extra. Also, I've replaced some of the monopropellant tanks with small liquid fuel tanks up there. You could just saw I clicked on it there. So I hopefully won't have to burn any of the payload fuel, but maybe. But it just gives me a little extra safety because I keep losing these. But hopefully this just won't be a problem when I get my much bigger rockets and can put up really big fueling spacecraft, because I have to do these really frequently. That's the main problem. But the thing is I have to do them every time I want to do a mission, which will be pretty much the same as launching a mission, just far cheaper, although I guess it's a little more boring. But anyway, here we are just landing the Pulsar 4 stage, and recovering that. I guess my Falcon 8 this would be, because it has 8 engines. I could put one in the middle and it would be a proper Falcon 9, but... but anyway, yeah, we're just going to push ourselves on into orbit, and this time the Pulsar 4 almost makes it to orbit, 62 kilometer periaps. I always fall a tiny bit short because, just because it's such a heavy payload, but I really need this amount of fuel. So yeah, we just burn a tiny bit of that fuel and leave that stage, and just deploy these fairings and nose cone so that we can move on to the station. So yes, we'll be firing up our liquid fuel engines and moving on in. And I think this goes fairly well, but I also have this horrible feeling that it doesn't, because none of these fueling missions ever go well. my interplanetary missions go fine, except for that one that's heading to Moho. But these are always like, oh my god. But oh yeah, I'm actually slightly too high in my orbit. So I'm going to have a slight trouble moving into the station. But I think I end up just being quite aggressive and moving in quite fast, because I think I was recording this quite late and was just like, I am going to that station. So yeah, and I do have quite a bit of fuel. I mean, yeah, I lent some of it to the second stage, but I think I'm still on the fuel that's meant for orbital maneuvers. But yeah, you can see I keep hiding the probes in the map view because there are so many in low Kerbal orbit. So sometimes I just have to, hide them so I can see. But yeah, you can see I'm just doing a few maneuvers to move on in, just pushing my prograde marker, well, my retrograde marker over the correct node so that we just move in. It's not quite as efficient, but at this point I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's actually making it worse. But so yeah, what I decided to do is just null my velocity and head right for the station, because I was having none of it at this point. After all of these missions keep freaking failing. I don't know why I can never get a fueling mission to go nicely. You see, when I launched the Ares ones, the manned spacecrafts, they always maneuver into the station fine. But this one, the fueling spacecraft, they hate me. They hate me. But anyway, we are moving in, and we still have quite a lot of fuel on the payload, so it should be fine. Yeah. And it's reusable, so it's all good. Wait, what did I say? It doesn't really make a difference if it's reusable. Anyway, yeah, it is cool that it's reusable to have a fully reusable system. And people keep saying, well, just build an SSTO. Yes, Yes, that is a good idea. It is a great idea. But I don't have the technology because I don't have the science center. God damn it, man. I don't know what voice that was, but that's usually my fake angry voice. Yeah, I do want to build some serious SSDOs, but I need the new science center to get the new SSDOs. You know, it's crazy. I need more. Anyway, so you'll also notice on this rendition it has only 3 solar panels instead of 4, and only 3 parachutes. I just want to say that is a really good idea to build SSDOs, and I will when I can. But yes, anyway. This only has 3 parachutes and 3 solar panels because it makes it slightly lighter and it only really needs 3. So this is a very refined version as well, but still not great apparently. So here we are, moving into the station. Finally docking after all this time. But yeah, I did want to leave that in just to show you that even when you give it all of the fuel in the world, I am still incompetent. So, yeah, let's just fuel up the station with all this fuel we brought. But you don't want to watch all of that. So here I am just returning one of the second stage. But I was also doing a little bit of looking through some of the orbital debris and probes. And it turns out I've got a couple of other second stages in orbit that I forgot to bring back. I often do that. I forget to bring them back. So after this one, I went up and just named them just D-Orbit. I just gave them the name D-Orbit. You can see here I've put D-Orbit before the name so I can just down them. And I did a bit of cleaning up, getting a little money back. So here's bringing back a Pulsar 3 second stage after quite a while in space. And here's another Pulsar 4, but the engine explodes, annoyingly. But yeah, and then there's a bunch of boosters up here. I just named Dead Booster because they can't come back. So yeah, maybe one day I'll harvest them for their little bit of fuel and maybe their engines or something. That could be quite interesting. I could build a whole propulsion system out of there. I might one day build like a proper scrapyard spacecraft. But anyway, after doing a quick inclination change for the Red Origin 3, I'm just setting up my maneuver to come close to the station. And just doing various things. So I'm going to do this in multiple burns because we have such a high relative velocity. So we're not going to meet it this time, but we're just going to do a few more burns to move on in. Yeah, the problem I often have here is I overburn, and then I get into a problem where my orbit is too similar to the station's, and then it gets all screwed up. But this one went pretty well. It's 2.2 kilometers, and then we'll just move in, make sure our relative velocities and positions are all good, and yes, it will be glorious. This whole and here we are just maneuvering in after apparently I didn't want to encounter at very high velocity, so I decided to come into the station. I actually burned a little more fuel than I had to because you can see I'm in a lower orbit now, but it worked out fine. And here we are just arriving at the station. This again took a little while, and I did just make you watch a whole crazy docking maneuver. So yeah, so here we are just docking on. And yeah, we're going to refuel it and send it straight back out to the moon, because we've got a mission to save a Kerbal from orbit of the moon and plant a flag on the moon. So we will be doing that for the good of money, for the good of a new Kerbal, and for the good of awesome exploration and a little bit of science. So yeah, here we are. We've put Jeb in. He's been wanting to fly for a while, and here we are after I set up... Oh, I didn't set up the maneuver because we're going to the moon. I'd usually burn just before it comes over the horizon with this vehicle, because it's quite low thrust-to-weight ratio. But with normally thrust-to-weight ratioed spacecraft, I would burn as the moon comes over the horizon, just prograde, and you'll pretty much reach it. So yeah, pretty good way of doing it. And just place ourselves into an encounter, rescue a Kerbal, land, do a little science, and then come on back for, commendations and all of that, and a little money and new science. It's going to be great! I'm just making sure this is the right Kerbal, and it is. Yeah, she's in a low orbit as well, which is really nice of her, because then we'll be able to go right down to the surface, which is great. We could go to the base, I guess, but it's not really in the mission plan today. We need to get that Kerbal back sharpish, but we will be going to the base again at some point. I need to send it some more scientific equipment. I've designed quite a nice rover, semi-reminiscent of a Martian-style rover from the film, but not really. It's a pretty cool rover, though, and... I just need to unlock wheels when I get that new science... Oh, no, I don't have to get the new science center, but I just need a little more science. But yeah, once I've got that, I will be sending that to the moon, and we should be able to do some regular cool missions, driving around to different craters. And I also am going to send a thing that can generate food, because I actually have a water purifier and a carbon scrubber on the base. so it can actually self-sustain, except it generates a lot of waste. So yeah, I do want to switch all that on, but I think I may also need a little more electric charge for that. So we don't have to do that because there's a lot of life support supplies down there. But yeah, and at some point I'd also like to set up a fueling base, a fuel base on the moon. So that's all, yeah, gonna be cool. And we've rescued the Kerbal. She's a scientist, which is good. We've only got a couple of scientists. Or maybe it's engineers we need more of. Well, whatever it is, we've got a new scientist, so that's good. And we'll just send her on into the spacecraft, and we're going to land in this crater above right now, which I thought we'd never landed in, but I have flags turned off, so we actually have landed in it, which kind of sucks, but it doesn't matter. We've got a bunch of repeat experiments we can do, and the main thing today is money, not science, which works fine. So I'm actually boosting into a slightly higher orbit just so that I can time warp properly, and so that it's easier to meet this fuel tank, which we're going to leave in a little bit. And yeah, we're just about to fly over the base as well, which is quite nice. And we have Neptune Station in orbit. I'm not sure if I said that I named it Neptune Station, but yes, it is the Neptune Station, which is around the moon, rather confusingly. But I've named it after a god, because obviously there's Hermes Station, Ceres Station, Neptune Station, although I think Hermes may have been a Greek god, correct me if I'm wrong. Ceres was a Roman god, and I believe Neptune was also the Roman god of the sea, and Ceres was... I think I had a whole discussion in the comments once about Ceres with someone, and I think they were maybe thinking of someone else. But Ceres is of motherly love and agriculture, which makes no sense for that station. Hermes, I totally forgotten what Hermes is, but it's a cool name. And Neptune, of course, the god of the sea, the god of traveling, the god of all of that stuff, and most of all, a cool name for a station. But yes, here we are landing on the moon in the crater. We've already landed in the... Looks like the computers inside the cockpit were tricking out, you know, I don't know what was going on there, but yeah, we're going to touch down nicely, and we're on a bit of a slope, which should be fine, except apparently these landing legs have pretty much no friction anymore, and you see I just start sliding down the slope, and it's not stopping. I don't know what that's about. Squad, help! Squad, help! I don't think Squad will ever help me after turning their game into a very violent war, so... Yeah, I was thinking about that. They're never going to invite me to an event, are they? It's like, oh yeah, this guy who is pretty much only has his YouTube channel because he blows things up in KSP with guns. It's like, yeah, they're probably not big fans of me. Which is sad. But anyway, after trying to slow this down with my engine and it just failing, I decided, Jeb's a badass. He can just jump out, do all of the things he needs to do, then jump back into a moving spacecraft. He's done crazier things, probably. But yeah, you can look how janky that looks as it's slipping down the slope. It's like, come on. It actually does stop when I put it on the engine, but yeah. Anyway, we grab a little science. I don't think we actually got anything for that because we've done that stuff before, but we throw down a flag to get paid so that we can get a new science center and do awesome things. And I just put East Crater Landing 2 because I can't think of another name for it, and that's just my usual naming format. But now we've got to catch up with the rogue... The rogue spacecraft, which is sliding down the hill and will probably fall over at some point. And grabbing a moving spacecraft with a dumb physics-less ladder is really annoying. Grabbing the physics-less ladders usually is pretty annoying, but this takes the cake for annoying KSP things. And you can see I almost grab on there, but then just fall off, which was pretty annoying. This is one of the reasons I don't do live commentary a lot, is because I get so angry at these ladders. Yeah. Oh, that was actually fine. Okay, I'm sorry for yelling at you, ladders. I love you. Anyway, yeah, so I put it down onto the engine bell really safely, and it stops. But yes, it is at the end of the episode. We will be returning in the next episode and hopefully getting our new science center. Yes! It's going to be great! Then we're going to get a bunch more money. Oh shit, we're going to need some money after that to buy rockets. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. And then we're also going to need some money to unlock new... Okay, we're going to need a lot more money. I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been KSP with Tape. I'll see you next time.